Hello, good afternoon. My name is David Corcoran, your EQ business advisor, and welcome to another LinkedIn Live, where today we are looking at recognizing patterns. This is one of our emotional intelligence competencies as part of the Know Yourself, as part of our KCG model that you see slightly behind me there in the blue section. I'd like to introduce today's special guest. Our guest is a trainer and strategist, especially in peace building, in development and ecosystems. Welcome, Andra Tanasa.
Thank you very much for the invite, David. It's a pleasure to be here to have this conversation, and the topic is definitely interesting. So I can only hope that our conversation will be bubbly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And certainly I appreciate you coming on and spending some time to share your insights with us. And yeah, let's keep it lively as we go along. So just let me ask you to tell our viewers a little bit more about what you do.
Sure. So first, I will start by saying who I am, and then what I do. And yeah, I like to tell that I am a world citizen, so not necessarily associated to one particular place. And have been born in Romania, have studied a bit around the world, a little bit in Italy, in the US, and in Costa Rica. I love traveling, and I think that was my greatest learning experience. And what I do, I am peace builder by training.
Mm-hmm.
So in Costa Rica, I did study a master at the UN University there on peace studies. And basically, since then, since 2005, I have been involved in peace building. Peace building means looking for conflict transformation, creative and nonviolent conflict transformation. And this can be done in fields like education, where I have been most active, doing training programs with schools, with adults, but also on awareness raising in event and community dialogues. Peace building also can mean being involved in different conflict settings,
Mm-hmm.
and working for strategies to get the communities to work together, finding that place of conflict transformation. So I have been working also on that. I had the it's a tough word to find, because it is a pleasure. It is also very difficult. So I had the pleasure. I had the risk. I had the joy, and I had the tears of working in places like in Moldova and Transnistrian region in Ukraine, with the Syrians and Nepal and others.
Wow.
So this is a little bit about what also I do, and because I think I do, and I am a little bit of an educator and a strategist, as you said. Now life has brought me back home in Cluj, in Transylvania, where I am, and here I work with an ICT cluster and the Digital Innovation Hub. It
Mm-hmm.
seems a big leap from peace building to IT. Yet the things that we actually do, working with the different stakeholders in the ecosystems, working on sustainable, solid community development and engagement with all these actors, is not very far away from peace building, from development.
Mm.
So this is in brief what I do, and not last, definitely, I am also mother of two daughters, one 3 and one 10-year-old, and I think that also links very much to strategies, to education, and to community development. So definitely a big part of what I do, and who I am.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as we're at 6 seconds about emotional intelligence, what role does emotions play in a lot of your work?
A big role. I
Mhm.
was chatting with you earlier or last week, and I was telling you that somehow I discovered that since I was a kid, I tended to follow my emotions very much. So if I had the luck to have a wonderful teacher in the primary school,
Mhm.
and she was a chess player. I started playing chess and did it with passion, and did it well.
Mhm.
After that, I very much liked my math teacher, and again, I went on math competitions and so on and so forth. Then I wanted to be a journalist. For the longest time, yet the environment at the university with the journalism classes didn't quite work well, so I switched to economics, and wherever there was an emotional environment that I connected better.
Mhm.
So at a very personal level, they played a major role, and they also played a major role in my career path, because of those choices, because of this way of interacting, I realized that I actually get to work on projects that I really care about and I really like and I really connect with. I think that makes work authentic,
Mhm.
and brings both personal pleasure in doing it, and also brings a value added, a quality to the work that you do.
Yeah,
So this
wonderful.
is on one hand.
Mhm.
At a personal level, at the path level, they played a major role in deciding what type of work I was doing.
Mm.
Now, if we think about the role of emotional intelligence in the thematic work, so if we take peace building work, definitely the biggest role that one can imagine. An example of a hint, a tip of success in peace processes is that you don't necessarily have breakthroughs whenever you're uh, around the table or we are negotiating, but the biggest breakthroughs sometimes are at a certain dinner or in informal spaces. What
Mm.
does that say about the role of emotional intelligence? It says a lot, because the real breakthrough happens when you connect not on the rationality level in peace building, but on a human level. When you
Mhm.
reach the level of trust, of
Mhm.
connection, of self awareness,
Mm.
and of awareness about the others.
Mm.
So, a very, very big role when we talk about peace building. If we are thinking about education, that also, I would say, a big role.
Mm.
If we are to think about the models and the transformation in the educational system, I work now very much with the program Erasmus Plus and
Mhm.
with networks of teachers. And one of the trends is to try to incorporate more and more non formal education into classic education or into state education. What non formal education does is actually bringing some elements of also emotional intelligence into the competence framework that students develop. So, if in the classic system a lot was on information,
Mhm.
now the theory, and hopefully more and more the practice as well, is that students are also educated to be self-aware,
Mm.
to look at competencies in the workplace, such as analysis, such as planning, such as having the freedom of choosing their own paths instead of just following a certain line that was imposed,
Mhm.
changing their own paths.
Yeah.
So again, in education, a very, very big role. And last area, perhaps to say, a question that actually is quite interesting and quite current, is what role does emotional intelligence play in ICT and in technology? Because we do discuss that we live in a world where we tend to become more and more virtual or digitalized.
Mhm.
And the questions that are to be raised now very much are, what does that mean
Mhm.
to our humanity,
Mm.
to our connecting to each other?
Mhm.
Does it do harm? Does it do good? Does it protect? What are the risks and how we can mitigate them? So I would say that also a very, very big role when we think about our professional lives that are influenced so much by technology nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what I'm hearing from you, and thank you, Andra, in the sense that on one side you're working in tech to bring about connection, and in the peace building side, you've seen that the connection and the trust that's developed through the informal meetings, through the emotional connection that people can have, is maybe where you're building a bridge towards both. You know, that the social aspect that we have in peace building and these informal discussions. I've read a few books over my time that really highlight that there's a real benefit in small talk, in being able to set your agenda or to build the trust in these moments. And often, you mentioned before, informal, it may be around food as well. It's a meal, maybe there's an adjournment, there's some kind of coming together of community. And so here you are now also building this same community with emotional intelligence on the other side. And as our competency is recognizing patterns, I also see a pattern for you that each time you've had mentors, you've had figures who have been able to really support you in your development and help you to see your future direction. That's a lovely pattern to have in your life as well, which is really good. So you mentioned before a tip was to come together, informally, to get to know people, build trust. Do you have any particular peace building strategies when it comes to trust or recognizing emotions in others?
Um, to trust, definitely. And I recall one of the questions that I had when I attended a seminar with Johann Galtung.
Mhm.
For those who may not know or associate this name with something in peace building, Johann Galtung is the founder of peace studies.
Mhm.
And I was attending a class for a student in peace building. It was a moment of reference. And I remember I asked him, what to do, what to have, what to work on in order to be a good peace builder. And he replied, well, in my case, it may be my rationality as a mathematician and my madness.
Mhm.
In another case, it might be the humor. In your case, it might be the inquisitiveness and the smile.
Mhm.
So I think in order to build trust, I come back to the concept of authenticity.
Mhm.
It is one of the preconditions, I would say. And in building trust, being who you are and being open and honest about it is one of the strategies that I learned over time that it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one element. Another element, also connected to building trust, is awareness and connecting to the context of the other, and patience.
Mm-hmm.
So often, especially in the context of working in conflicts, you work in situations where people are highly stressed, anxious,
Mm-hmm.
fearful, and one of the first victims of a conflict is the trust.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to work in such a context, you need to uh, do a little bit the homework and try to find out before meeting um, whoever you're working with, what is their background, what can
Mm-hmm.
you expect and not expect. Then trying to have those conversation with the actual people, so not only your homework and your perception, but actually asking and engaging in a conversation about
Mm-hmm.
who you are and so on and so forth, so that you build a relationship, and hopefully with time you build trust.
Mm-hmm.
So authenticity, the second aspect would be this, getting to know and learning about each other, and the third aspect would be patience, because I don't know, you can imagine you have a week together in a training program, or you can have even a shorter time, and you want to get to a certain outcome, yet trust doesn't instantly happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I recall another story from a friend working with the Nonviolent Peace Force, saying that they spent 6 months in a community drinking tea
Mm-hmm.
every day and doing nothing more
Yeah, with the
with the
community.
community,
Yeah.
in order to build this trust, in
Mm-hmm.
order for them later on to be able to work and engage in uh, structural changes and different peace building processes.
And you said that can take 6 months
Yeah,
in that
and it was
example that you had.
yeah, civilian peace building example, and it was part of the strategy of the organization, the practice of the organization, because they knew the community, because they knew that bringing outsiders in a certain context
Mm-hmm.
means that the relationship needs to be consolidated.
Mm. Yeah, this is really, really interesting. Very powerful in the sense that it's also very simple. Where we think, well, how do we be open and honest? Well, we be open and honest to create that sense of authenticity. Then at the same time, I guess recognizing really patterns, maybe not the right word here, but certainly recognizing who you're speaking to and what do they need? What are they showing up with? And as you said, there's always maybe there's a pattern in conflict situations. There's stress, there's high tension, there's deadlines, there's time frames. And so being able to kind of expand within that is a really powerful skill. And it sounds like something that you've worked on, that you've sought advice from others about how to enact that. And that's really an aspect of emotional intelligence, that self-awareness, to be able to recognize, I'm feeling something here. Here's how I could navigate through this particular situation. Or do we just go back to having a cup of tea, or to recognizing that the process may take longer? I think many of us expect, well, if I give trust, I get trust, and it should be just turned on instantly. But hearing you speak, recognizing that it can take longer, and it shouldn't be rushed, I guess, either. It shouldn't be pushed. We don't want to push trust on others.
Exactly. It's again in nonviolent communication. There are a number of steps in the technique of nonviolent communication, but one of the elements and the powerful learning experiences from going through this process is that. You cannot really impose or tell others what they should feel. So it's the
Mm,
same with with trust. Although I want perhaps you to trust me, I cannot tell you you should trust me. I'm this and this. Trust comes and emotions come. Emotions are owned
yeah.
by all of us, and in this ownership there is an element of for the others to accept it, and it's
Mm,
not easy to accept that you want people to feel one way or another, but what you can do is to ask them to do something kindly, to recognize your own emotions and engage in a conversation, but you cannot really determine how people should feel.
mm,
And you said earlier, it's something very simple. So perhaps it's a simple act, waiting, but
mm,
considering our times, which are very fast,
mhm,
um, patience and waiting for
mm,
processes to happen, slow processes, are not easy at all.
mm. Especially to have a lasting effect too. We could maybe you've had situations where you thought a peace negotiation or a moment was going to go quickly, and then it took longer because it wasn't, or it fell apart because it wasn't embedded properly. There wasn't that patience, there wasn't that context or the authenticity perhaps behind it.
Mhm.
You've also mentioned many. You've lived in Italy, the US, Costa Rica. You've traveled a lot. Have you seen a lot of cross-cultural differences when it comes to peace building or these topics that we're talking about as well, around recognizing patterns in others?
To start off, I think the conscious awareness of patterns doesn't really happen. So perhaps we are not really educated in these directions. We are
Hmm.
educated
Hmm.
to react, not
Hmm.
really to
Hmm.
see.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we don't see the other and we constantly react, it's even more challenging to actually recognize patterns, which
Mm.
involve seeing and understanding the other. But definitely, and linking to what earlier we were discussing about the speed of our modern, so-called modern societies, um, definitely in places that perhaps are a bit further from the ultra modern and
Hmm.
fast world, this recognition of the other, this time for having conversations can happen more.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you don't have access to your email buzzing and your WhatsApps buzzing, perhaps you have the time to sit under a tree and actually look and have a conversation with the people around you. And
Mm.
I was. I definitely I found I and I tended, that's another pattern, I tended to find experiences. For example, recently I was in Nepal, or I recall very dearly a trip to the Gambia some time ago, as very, very rewarding. And
Hmm.
probably because there was also the time to explore and to have this slower pace. And actually, this happens also here in Romania when we're going to the countryside in the grandma's village. As soon as you step out of the city,
Hmm.
it seems more settled. So that's also perhaps a pattern that can link geographical locations and environments to our ability to dedicate a bit more time to our emotion and emotional intelligence, and
Mm.
feeding and nurturing our emotional intelligence.
Yeah, thank you. Such wise words there. I was just thinking the same thing, that maybe that's the pattern, to recognize that our modern life is not conducive to good peace building, trust, and authenticity there, to allow space for things to really grow and develop. So before we finish up our time together, I'd like to ask you about your other project, the Digitalisation project you mentioned at the start. Now back in Transylvania, in your hometown, what are you working on, and how are you? We talked before about that bridge, and maybe bringing what you've brought and developed as a peace builder into now a digitalization and an IT area. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, and right now I'm working in an ICT cluster, which is basically an association of companies, but also research institute, universities, focusing on digital transformation.
Mhm.
And also, we are organizing a digital innovation hub. And this digital innovation hub is basically a space where innovation happens, where skills are being worked on, and also there is a matchmaking between and connection between the different actors. And actors, by actors, I mean any enterprise that might want to use certain technologies, or universities, or public administration.
Mhm.
So, what does that have to do with patterns, with emotional intelligence, and me, a peace builder in this context? Well, also in digital transformation, we work more and more with the concept of ecosystem, and the ecosystem brings with itself as a concept a lot of everything that we talked about: slow awareness, connecting and understanding the different actors. And also another element that we see and want to bring more and more is the ethical implication of this digital transformation. And what does it mean? Are we becoming less connected, actually, because of all the screens, because we cannot really feel, or are we not? And what can we do to avoid the risks of being disconnected?
Mhm.
And right now we're looking a lot at what does it mean, and there are different theories. One says, links to the gender equality, saying that actually wherever women are involved, the emotional intelligence is nurtured, and also the companies become more and more successful. And that doesn't happen so much in technology. So
Mhm.
that's on one aspect. But on the other aspect is actually looking at sustainability, ethics,
Mhm.
and we talk more and more about green and digital
Mhm.
transition. And
Mhm.
this is something that I will look into more, and it's actually the part where I'm working. And I think the good news is that our environment and different bubbles start to be integrating, and we talk more and more, um, not only in silos but to each other, whether we're academia, peace builders, researchers, or tech people.
Mm. So we go beyond collaboration, really, to connection. Uh,
Exactly. And hopefully, this pattern of ecosystemic engagement
mhm.
will be a pattern that will be healthy,
Yeah.
both for the emotional intelligence nurturing in
Mhm.
different environments and in different sectors.
Mhm.
And we speak a lot about intersections, and the fact that perhaps classic ways where, okay, you're a doctor, or you're a physicist, you're a mathematician, you're a military or a peace worker or a teacher. More and more our professions become interconnected,
Mhm.
and within a certain specialization, we are, in terms of our future work, a little bit generalists as well.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful. Wow. So really bridging all of your worlds and helping our world to succeed in a better way with this digital hub. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you, Andra, and I see many new ways perhaps in which the future of emotional intelligence can walk in that digital direction as well, and looking at how do we provide solutions to people who really need it, so we avoid the silos and we create the connection together, because digital is not going away and we can't always meet in person and have informal chats and social events. So we have to learn how can we bring the best of what we've done into this new sphere as well. So wonderful. It's been lovely to have you on, Andra. And any final words that you'd like to share with us before we wrap it up?
No, thank you. I hope I did bring many words together. That's I'm joking that that's one of my problems. I tend to make sense out of context.
Yeah, no, you
But
really
I
do.
hope it made sense. It's always a pleasure, and I perhaps one word to keep a constant and the pattern is Ubuntu, which means I am because you are. We are who we are because of each other. So I tend to leave it at the places where I am. Thank you so much for your hosting and your partnering and accompaniment in this dialogue, and looking forward to the next time.
It's a pleasure. So for those watching on, Andra Tanasso, you are on LinkedIn, and there are details where you can connect with her. And so find out more about the work that she's doing. We really encourage you to do that. So we are 6 Seconds Europe, and thank you again. See you in a couple of weeks. If you're watching on to these LinkedIn Lives regularly, recognizing patterns is our theme of the moment. And we look forward to sharing more insights with you as we go along. So have a good afternoon, everyone. And we'll see you soon. Thank you again, Andra. Take care.
Bye.